All right, let's get on, guys, because I gotta get back to bed. I'm tired. Um, I think we read in Genesis about chapter 12 about how. Let me go back a little bit further, and then I'm come back, come on up to 13. I don't want to take long on this video. Um, the first people that were mentioned was Noah in the Bible. Now, during Noah's generation, uh, Noah, excuse me for yarning, Noah was in a generation where there were huge giants come from down from heaven, and the giants were angels that God had in heaven. These giants were down here having sex with the women of the world, the women on earth. And so they created some type of a weird offspring. So the Lord decided to get rid of, he said, I'm going to have to start over. So Noah was the only one saved and his people during that time. And they fled by boat. They got into a large yacht with everything they needed in there, and it was enclosed in. They fixed it down on each side, and I'm sure the Lord helped them with making sure it was secure and telling them how to build. And so he and his daughter and her husband, and everybody was in there, two of a kind. Was everybody two of a kind? So y'all got in there because it was going to be recreated, right? So we've been heard this about Noah's Ark. Noah sailed around in all of the water or whatever till the earth was recreated. He was inside where he was safe. The Lord took care of just Noah because he listened and he obeyed and he believed that the Lord was true, and that's all he needed. And so now Noah's generation restarted itself, and he had two sons. And out of the two sons, I think it was Shem and Ham. Out of one of them, I think it was Hem, maybe Hem. One of them, Abram was born. Now, Abram became known as Abraham, but this was down all the way down through generations of Noah time, because during Noah, they had so many children, different names. I could start naming them off right here, and it'll take me 30 minutes to get through the generations of Noah. But when they got all the way down here, it says, these are the families of the sons of Noah after their generation in their nations. And by these were the nations divided in the earth after the flood. So all of his offspring, down on lineage on down the line, made nations of people. And then it says, and the whole earth was of one language and of one speech. And it came to pass that they journeyed from the east until the plains. Okay, let me go all the way down. Ooh, hold on. Sorry for yarn. It's time to go to bed. When you get all the way down here, the generations of Terah. Terah begot Abram, Nahor, and Haran begot Lot. So Terah, Terah lived 70 years and had Abram, Nahor, and Haran. So that was their father, Terah, and they had three sons. Now the son named Abram, let's see, Terah took Abram his son and his cousin Lot, and the son of Haran his son, and Sarai his daughter-in-law, his son, Abram's wife. And they went forth with them from Ur of the Chaldeans to go into land of Canaan. And they came unto Haran and dwelt there. So they went into a different land. This land was called Canaan. And the days of Terah were 205 years, and Terah died in Haran. Okay, so Abram was taken over to Canaan. Is it want to call them the Canaanites? Anyway, it's on the map here. Area called Canaan. Here, Macedonia. I'm trying to see if I can see Canaan. Anyway, I'll look it up and then I'll show it to you on the next video. I don't want to waste time. Now, I can't get over how tasty the coffee is and no sugars. All it is heavy whipping cream and butter. It's amazing. Now the Lord said to Abram, get out the country and from thy kindred and from thy father's house unto a land where I will shew thee. Abram was separated out from his brothers and from where his father had taken him to go to a different place where the Lord wanted him to go. Okay? And he said, I will bless them that bless you. He told Abram that his name would be great and that he would be blessed if he do this thing. And so Abram departed. He took his wife Sarai, and he departed. Okay? Now we read this part on the last video. So the Canaanites, when Abram was traveling, the Canaanites was in that land, and he passed through that land. You know, and things happen along the way as he traveled with his wife, Sarai. Now, when we get over here to 13, Abram went out of Egypt, he and his wife, and all that he had, and Lot with him, into the south. So they decided to leave Egypt. Lot, Abram at that time, and his wife. Then they went on a journey from the south even to Bethel, unto the place where his tent had been at the beginning between Bethel and Hai, Hai. Now unto the place of the altar which he had made there at the first, and there Abram called on the name of the Lord. Now I want to tell you something that Abram done. He made an altar where he lived so that he could go in prayer. And that altar was where he called God and talked to God and prayed to God and talked to him about what's my next move? What am I going to do? Make you a place in your house, call it your desk or whatever you want to call it. But it has to be a place where you just sit in solitude and talk to the Lord and pray. And this should be a daily practice. Now, unto the place of the altar which he had made there at the first. He had made it before. He came back and made another altar. And there Abram called on the name of the Lord. And Lot also, which went with Abram, had flocks and herds and tents. And the land was not able to bear them, that they might dwell together. They had so much stuff, it wasn't enough space, basically. So they could not dwell together. And there was a strife between the herdmen of Abram's cattle and the herdmen of Lot's cattle. And the Canaanite and the Perizzite dwelled then in the land. And Abram said unto Lot, let there be no strife, I pray thee, between me and thee, and between thy herdmen and thy herdsmen, for we be brethren. Okay? So the herdsmen that were helping with the cattle had them at strife, and they decided, no, we're not going to do that. We didn't come here for that. Is not the whole land before thee? Separate thyself, I pray thee, from me. If thou wilt take the left hand, then I will go to the right. Or if thou depart on the right, then I will go to the left. So Abram told Lot, it being his cousin, we got too much stuff, but let's separate out. They had been gaining, the cattle was giving birth, and they had needed more space to handle these cattle. So he told Lot, you go on that side and I go on the other side of wherever we at. Let's make separate locations here for our nation of people that we're going to have, or for all of our offspring, because they decided, because we're going to do this the right way. And Lot lifted up his eyes and beheld all the plain of Jordan, that it was well watered everywhere before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. So Lot said, I'm going to take Jordan. It's water over there. Even as the garden of the Lord, like the land of Egypt, as thou comest unto Zoar. Then Lot closed him all the plain of Jordan. And Lot journeyed east, and they separated themselves one from the other. Abraham dwelt in the land of Canaan, and Lot dwelt in the cities of the plains and pitched his tent towards Sodom. But the men of Sodom were wicked and sinners before the Lord exceedingly. And the Lord said unto Abram, after that Lot was separated from him, lift up now thine eyes, and look from the place where thou art northward and southward and eastward and westward. For all the land which thou seest to thee will I give thee, and to thy seed forever. And I will make thy seed as the dust of the earth, so that if a man can number the dust of the earth, then shall thy seed also be numbered. Now, listen at what the Lord promised Abram here. He said, I'm going to look. He told him to look everywhere. He said, look all around. This is what the Lord said. I'm going to give you everywhere you look. I'm going to give it to you. This is what he said. He going to be, is your seed is going to subdue that. This is what he said. This is the Lord promised right here in the Bible. He said, look, lift up your eyes. He said, look from where thou art. Look north. He said, look south, look east, and look west. This is what the Lord said. Lift up your eyes. He said, look northward, look southward, look eastward, look westward. And this is what he said. For all the land which thou seest, all the land, to thee will I give it, and thy seed forever. And I will make thy seed as the dust of the earth, so many that you can't number the amount of offspring that's going to come from this right here, two people, him and Sarah, out of Isaac. And then what? Ishmael going to come too. Now, arise, walk through the land in the length of it and in the breadth of it, for I will give it to thee. Then Abram removed his tent and came and dwelt in the plain of Mamre, which is the Hebron, and built there an altar unto the Lord. Listen at Abraham. Abraham said, okay, this is what Abraham thinking. All of this is mine, even before it was even his. The Lord said it's going to be yours. It wasn't his yet, but he went and built him an altar over here. Look, Abram said, let me go build me an altar on this side because I got to go and claim this. He said, he already said this is mine. Let me go over here and bless this. Let me go over here and bless that. Let me go bless this right here. The Lord said, let me bless this. Speak it in to existence. You hear me? If the Lord said you can have this, you better put a blessing on, better put some prayer on. Okay, here we go on 14. And it came to pass in the days of Amraphel, the king of Shinar. We got a king here. Okay, that these made war with Bori, king of Sodom. So they made a war of the king of Sodom. All these were joined together in the vale of Siddim, which is the Salt Sea. 12 years they served Chaldemar, and in the 13th year they rebelled. And in the 14th year came Chaldemar. Okay, so they were having a war. It's always been wars, right? So they rebelled against the king in the Salt Sea. They're having a war. And the Hittites in their Mount Seir, which is by the wilderness. And they returned and came to En-Mishpat, which is Kadesh, and smote all the country of the Amalekites, and also the Amorites that dwelt in Hazazon Tamar. And there went out the king of Sodom, and the king of Gomorrah, and the king of Admah, and the king of Zobulun, and the king of Bela, the same as Zoar, and they joined battle with them in the vale of Siddim. Okay, so they all the kings of different little areas, they fought a war. Okay, and let's see what happened. And they took all the goods of Sodom and Gomorrah and all their victuals and went their way. So they must have went over there and won a war against Sodom. And they took Lot, Abraham's brother's son, who dwelt in Sodom, and his goods, and departed. And there came one that had escaped and told Abram the Hebrew, for he dwelt in the plain of Mamre, the Amorite, brother of Eshcol and brother of Anar, and these were confederate with Abram. And when Abram heard that his brothers was taken captive, he armed his trained servants, born in his own house, 318, and pursued them unto Dan. And he divided himself against them, he and his servants by night, and smote them, and pursued them unto Hobah, which is on the left side of Damascus. And he brought back all the goods, and also brought again his brother Lot and his goods, and the women also, and the people. Okay. So my battery trying to give out. So what happened was Abram took all of these fierce men that was on his property. He said, let's go back and get them. So they went over there and got Sodom and all the goods and everything. Now, Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought forth bread and wine, and he was the priest and the Most High God. And he was a priest of the Most High God. And he blessed him and said, blessed be Abram of the Most High God, possessor of heaven and earth. And blessed be the Most High God, which hath delivered thine enemies into thy hand. And he gave him tithes of all. And the king of Sodom said unto Abram, give me the persons, and take the goods to thyself. And Abram said to the king of Sodom, I have lifted up my hand unto the Lord, the Most High God, the possessor of heaven and earth, that I will not take from a thread even to a shoe latch, and that I will not take anything that is thine, lest thou shouldest say, I have made Abram rich, save only that which the young men have eaten, and the portion of the men which went with me, Anar, Eshcol, and Mamre, and let them take their portion. So Abraham told him like this. He said, I don't want nothing you got. You don't have to pay me. He said, I did this because of the Lord thy God. He said, just take care of the men that's with me, that's up under me, that come here with me, to bring back the goods and bring back Lot and all of that back to your land. Because, see, somebody had broken in and taken everything from the area called Sodom and Gomorrah, and the king over there couldn't defend the whole thing. So Abram and his mighty men, they saved all of the spoils and took it back. Now, down here in 15, after these things, the word of the Lord came unto Abram in a vision, saying, fear not, Abram, I am thy shield and thy exceeding great reward. And Abram said, Lord God, what wilt thou give me, seeing I go childless, and steward of my house? Is the Eleazar of Damascus? Is this Eleazar of Damascus? And Abram said, behold to me, thou hast given no seed, and lo, one born in my house is mine heir. And behold, the word of the Lord came unto him, saying, this shall not be thine heir, but that he shall come forth of thine own bowels shall be thine heir. He's been promised a seed. He's been promised that his wife will have a baby. And so, let me see where we can go here. Let's go down to 16. Sarai, Abram's wife, bare him no children, and she had a handmaid, an Egyptian lady, whose name was Hagar. And Sarai said unto Abram, behold, now the Lord hath restrained me from bearing, but I pray thee, go in unto my maid. It might be that I may obtain children by her. And Abram hearkened to the voice of Sarai, and Sarai, Abram's wife, took Hagar, her maid, the Egyptian, after Abraham had dwelt 10 years in the land of Canaan, and gave her to her husband, Abram, to be his wife. And he went in unto Hagar, and she conceived. And when she saw that she had conceived, her mistress was despised in her eyes. And Sarai said unto Abram, my wrong be upon thee. I have given my maid into thy bosom. And when she saw that she had conceived, I was despised in her eyes. The Lord judge between me and thee. But Abram said unto Sarai, behold, thy maid is in thy house, thy hand. Do to her as it pleaseth thee. And when Sarai dealt hardly with her, she fled from her face. And the angel of the Lord found her by a fountain of water in the wilderness, by the fountain in the way to Shur. And he said, Hagar, Sarai's maid, whence camest thou? And whither wilt thou go? And she said, I flee from the face of my mistress Sarai. And the angel of the Lord said unto her, return to thy mistress, and submit thyself unto her hands. See, let me go back up here. When she gave her maid to her husband, the husband took the maid to her bosom and loved on her. The husband took the maid he taken love, loved on her, took him to the bosom, found love in the maid, But the maid did get pregnant with the husband Abram's offspring and despised the wife because now I'm pregnant. She did as whatever her person that she worked for told her to do. She was just being obedient, but she did not know that this could happen to her, right? She was unknowing. She was very unknowing. She was young, and she just went on in there because that's what the wife told her to do. So when she came out, she became they were like start hating each other. So the husband said, this cannot be. The wife said, this cannot be what's going on in my house. The husband said, do what you wish with her. Because the husband had gained feelings for her. And then she was pregnant, carrying his child. So the wife and the mistress were not going to get along in the same house. You got one husband and one wife, but you put the third party there. You said go do that. You told her to go do it, and she went and did what you told her to do. But this was not supposed to be done in the form of work, bearing a child. That was not anything intended for it. You're a servant, but your servant is not to be serving as your body to bear a child to somebody. You know what I'm saying? It don't go that far. So let's see. Abraham said unto his wife, behold, thy maid is in thy hand. He said, I give her to you. Because he didn't want to have nothing to say to her, because he was just following what his wife told him to do, to get the child. They were both intended upon getting an offspring, but it was wrong because God never told them to do it. This is something she made up because she said, well, I just want him to have a baby. Maybe I can't have a baby. But at the same time, she didn't know that the feelings and emotions was going to be there, which were there. They were there. And she saw that. She saw that in him. She looked at her husband. She said, you took her to your bosom? You fell in love with her? Okay, so let's go back. And the angel of the Lord found her by a fountain of the water. She had run away. The wife told her, get out of my house, whatever. So she was pregnant and found her out there in the wilderness. So the angel of the Lord told her to return. And the angel of the Lord said to her, I will multiply thy seed exceedingly, that it shall not be numbered for a multitude. In other words, the child that she had would have nations. would have an offspring. This is the firstborn child of Hagar. And the angel of the Lord said unto her, Behold, thou art with child, shall bear a son, and shall name him Ishmael, because the Lord hath heard thy affliction. And he will be a wild man. His hand will be against every man, and every man's hand against him. But he shall dwell in the presence of all his brethren, and he shall call the name of the Lord that spake unto her, Thou God seest me. For she said, Have I also here looked after him that seeth me? Wherefore the well was called uh, Ber Lahero. Behold, it is between Kadesh and Bered. See, she became really thirsty. She was pregnant. She was out there. The Lord made a well so she could drink water right there in the midst because of the child. Now let's go. And because of her, she's been pregnant. And Hagar bare Abram a son, and Abram called his son name, which Hagar bare Ishmael. Ishmael. And Abraham was 60 years old. He was about 64. And Hagar bare Ishmael to Abraham. So Ishmael was born when he was about 64. Now over here in 17, when Abram was 90 years old. Wow. 90 old and 99. The Lord appeared to Abram and said unto him, I am the Almighty God. Walk before me and be thou perfect. And I will make my covenant between me and thee, and I will multiply thy exceedingly their seed. And Abraham fell on his face, and God talked with him, saying, As for me, behold, my covenant is with thee, and thou shalt be a father of many nations. Neither shall thy name any more be called Abram, but thy name shall be called Abraham, for a father of many nations have I made thee. Um, and I will make thee exceedingly fruitful, and I will make nations of thee, and kings shall come out of thee. And I will establish my covenant between me and thee and thy seed after the generations. So the Lord said he's going to make many nations of Abraham. Okay, now when we get on down here, God said unto Abraham, Thou shalt keep my covenant, therefore thou and thy seed after thee in their generations. This is my covenant which ye shall keep between me and you and thy seed after thee. Every man child among you shall be circumcised. Number one, they should be circumcised. Ye shall circumcise the flesh of your foreskin, and it shall be a token of covenant betwixt me and you. Circumcise your foreskin. And he that is 8 days old shall be circumcised among you, every man child in your generation. He that is born in the house or bought with money, or any stranger which is not of thy seed. He says, circumcise the child. He that is born in thy house, that's everybody. He said, oh, the slave man, the free man, everybody that is a man that is coming out of the womb. The first one, circumcised. All males circumcised. Then it says, and the uncircumcised man, child, whose flesh of the foreskin is not circumcised, that soul shall be cut off from his people. He hath broken my covenant. So he said, the man that don't get circumcised after 8 days, he is not a covenant of Abraham and of God. And God said unto Abraham, As for Sarai thy wife, thou shalt not call her name Sarai, but Sarah shall her name be. Call her Sarah. They were getting up in age, more wise and more mature now. So they were taking on just bigger, broader names and different duties, different things that they had to do in life. And I will bless her and give thee a son also by her. Yea, I will bless her, and she shall be a mother of nations. Kings of people shall be of her. Then Abraham fell upon his face and laughed, and said in his heart, Shall a child be born unto him that is 100 years old. And shall Sarah, that is 90 years old, bear. So he was 100 and she was 90. Okay. And Abraham said unto God, oh, that Ishmael might live before thee. And God said, Sarah thy wife shall bear thee a son indeed, and thou shalt call his name Isaac. And I will establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant, and with his seed after him. And as for Ishmael, I have heard thee. Behold, I have blessed him, and will make him fruitful, and will multiply him exceedingly. 12 princes shall he begot, and I will make him a great nation. Ishmael have 12 princes. Now, I'm going to stop right there, guys. When I come back, I'm going to tell you more about the nation of Ishmael and about the nation of Isaac. Now, you know that the angel came to help her bear the birth of Isaac because she was very old. So the angel was there with her as she birthed Isaac into the world. Now, as you go further along, Isaac is going to get older. His mother is going to pass on. Sarah's going to pass on. And Abraham's going to say, I want to find you a wife. And he's going to take all of his gold, everything that he's accumulated to pay the bride's price. He's going to go out and look for a wife. He's going to send one of the servants out to go to the land where they came from before they came here to this land to find a wife. And he's going to say, when you find her, take all of my goods and pay her parents to bring her back to my son, because he loved Isaac. That was his only, he considered Isaac as his only son, but he did have Ishmael, but Ishmael lived out in the land in the wilderness with his mother. He didn't live out there with Abraham. So gonna go back, they're gonna find Rebecca, and Rebecca is gonna start a nation for Abraham, all of Abraham's offspring, his seed. So when we come back, we're going to talk about Rebecca's sons, and then we're going to talk about later Ishmael and his nations. But we got to get into what the sons' offspring, the children and things like that. So this is 32 minutes. I'm going to take a break.